Today, Big Sound Small Town is at the Sunset Cemetery Graveyard in Shelby, North Carolina, and it is for a tour of this pretty neat graveyard. It has musicians, it has some interesting people here, and join me for the tour. There we go. Yeah, in this cemetery is the Thomas Dixon Jr. grave. It says he's a lawyer and a minister and an orator, a playwright, and an actor. He wrote the book, The Klansman. Yep, he was a Baptist minister. And grew up with the slave owner, with slaves. He's a minister and a lawyer and a Ku Klux Klan advocate. So they turned that into his book, The Klansman, into The Birth of a Nation, which, if you know Cleveland County, this is in Cleveland County, North Carolina. This is actually Shelby. We're in Sunset Cemetery. And a lot of things here are named for Thomas Dixon, Wake Forest graduate. The Klan had a real big influence here in Cleveland County. After the Civil War, they left troops here for 2 years to try to undo the Ku Klux Klan here. This is another one of my favorite tombstones in here. It's for Betty Singleton Holridge. It says, she came to Shelby as a simple fat lady in the fair and left this earth as our friend. She worked as a fat lady in the fair. This is also part of a big hill coming up that runners call Running the Betty. Running the Betty consists of coming up this hill here. A lot of runners use it as hill repeat workouts. It's tough. When you get to the top, well, you're ready to barf, particularly if you do it a number of times. But they call it the Betty because of Betty Holridge, the fat lady. When I first came to Cleveland County, my first musical partner was this Charles E. Martin Jr., Chuck Martin. Chuck and I played music for a while, mostly as a duo, sometimes a trio. His life was a tough life. As you can see, he did not live that long. But yeah, my first musical partner in Cleveland County was Chuck Martin. Chuck, to my knowledge, was the first person in this cemetery to have musical instruments etched on his headstone. Rest in peace, buddy. Amazingly, not far from my first musical partner's grave site, it's probably the most famous one out here. As you can see, coming up, it's really funny that one of the successful songwriters in country music history, is buried almost parallel to just a common musician. So I guess it all comes down to, when it's all said and done, really what you have left is memories that you leave and possibly pictures that you take. But yes, this is the grave site of the famous Don Gibson. We have a theater here. Named after him. As you can see what it says here. There are the words to Don Gibson's most famous song, I Can't Stop Loving You, on his gravestone. And then if we do this right here, you can see he had a hit or two. So my next stop here is the grave of Bobby London, known as Pepperhead. As you can see, it says, "I want to thank you." While being one of Shelby High School's most avid sports fans, he also was a singer. And like everyone else in Cleveland County at some point, I worked in a textile mill with him. He was a singer, and he sang all the time. The man was always joyful and always singing, unless he was talking sports. As you can see, the Confederacy is still represented here, as is the Revolutionary War. All right, this is the tail end of our graveyard tour, Sunset Graveyard Tour. It says this grave is located 1,600 feet north, but I could not find it at all. This is W.J. Cash. He is the exact opposite of Thomas Dixon Jr. He had the mind of the South. Complete opposite. He was also nominated for a Pulitzer Prize for the work. This is the W.J. Cash burial site, known as Jack Cash. He wrote a book called The Mind of the South, which has never been out of print, was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize for literature, and it's complete opposite of Thomas Dixon's view on the South. Is one of the famous people here, literary people. He came to a tragic death in Mexico. Actually committed suicide. He was cremated and his ashes were brought home and interned here. Yeah, he is an interesting guy. This is the Jack Cash burial site. He actually died of suicide in Mexico, but his ashes were brought up here and interned in the family grave site. They weren't very happy about it. In case you don't know, Jack Cash, A.J. Cash, W.J. Cash, he wrote a book called The Mind of the South, and it has never been out of print, and it was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize for literature, and is a controversial book describing the attitudes of the people in the South. If you need some good reading, look it up. This is the Clyde Huey, right across actually from the Cash grave. It's Clyde Huey's grave. As you can see his dates here, he was the governor of North Carolina, the 59th governor of North Carolina. He prosecuted the people who, if you're familiar with the Loray Mill strike, the people who killed the police chief there, he prosecuted them. On a downside or another side, he was opposed to Hawaii becoming a state because there wasn't enough white people there to be a state. He was for segregation, but he actually did appoint a black guy to an office one time. So, still probably not that great a guy. Okay, while we're on the subject of governors, this is Oliver Max Gardner. He was the 57th governor of North Carolina. Got a nice big plaque here. So, of course, this is the Thomas Dixon plat that the city of Shelby has put up. You know, it's Kevin Bridges and I shot a video in front of this for a song we had called So Damn Proud. You can look it up, it's on Spotify.